So today, folks, it's all about real estate. It's all about getting 2 of these onto the roof of the van by cutting 2 big holes in the van. My wife does not have a lot of confidence, but I'm going to proceed anyways and see what happens. Okay, so here's the math that's involved. The ProMaster roof, and I'll do my best with my infantile drawing skills. The ProMaster roof is from here to here, roughly 144 inches or 12 feet. And from here to here, it's roughly 59 inches. Now, onto this roof surface, we want to get 2 fans. These fans take up roughly 16 wide by 24 inches deep. And we want the maximum number of solar panels that we can get. After doing some research and checking and doing some math, I have figured out I can get 4 panels times 200 watts for a total of 800 watts on the roof is the max that sort of works out with today's options in solar panels and wattages. Now, I found an article describing how to do this using 1 fan and 4 200 watt solar panels. Those solar panels that they chose to use were 59 by 27 in dimensions. And the way they mounted them is they mounted 2 vertically in the front, then their fan, and then they mounted 2 lengthwise at the back. Now the reason they did that is, if you do the math here, 59 plus 24, if you went 59 again, you're very close to this 144 maximum, and they were actually looking at an inch or 2 overhang at the back. So instead of running it vertically, they chose to run it, instead of running it lengthwise, they chose to run them widthwise. Okay, but that was just with 1 fan. And I don't want, for example, to have 2 fans side by side. You want to have fans essentially at the opposite corners of the van to make sure that you have airflow. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. Let's see if I can't clean this up a little bit. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my fans at the corners. My plan is to have the shower here, the door to the van is here, the side door, and the kitchen is on this side with the bed at the back. So as far as what's underneath the fans, this should work. Then I've got my 2 fans, and I've got my 4 200 watt, but what I've ordered are 2 of the 5927, but they also had a 40 by 40 configuration with the exact same specifications. So my plan is to mount 40s with the fans, and then in the center run my two 59 by 27. Well, that was this. Okay. So if we do the math now, it's 40 plus 59 plus 40. Sorry about that, I got a motion sensor light here. Which equals 139. And the width-wise, the fans are 16 plus 40, which equals 56. And the two panels are 54. So this should work, but we've got very little tolerance for the issues. And so the real challenge will be cutting the 14-inch holes in the right spot, because boy, if I have to go back to my wife and tell her I have to take this to a body shop to fix the holes, this is not going to go down well. So there it is. We'll give that a try today and see what happens. Okay, I made this template to illustrate, hopefully for myself, what it's going to look like on top. So this piece of cardboard is 58 inches by 40. So it should fit in between the roof rails on top of the van. And then looking forward, this is the back of the van. The solar in the back of the van will be on the right. The fan will be on the left. Now, the fan, if you look at the picture there, it cuts a hole in the roof, but the shroud has a little bit of an overlap. So this is where I got my 16 by 24 measurement. So I measured the fan and cut a template that showed what the real estate would be of the shroud and everything. And so that might look something like that. And then I cut a template for the hole that needs to be cut in the van. And that might look something like that. And then, this is, I double checked, this is the frame that you actually stick in and mount the fan on top. And so, if we take that and we put that on top, I purposely wanted it to be a little small, because of course you can always cut away more material, you can't really add more material. So I wanted it to be a little small. So that's a physical way that I've kind of rationalized my measurements. I'm going to try to take these templates up on the roof and lay them down, and this will form the basis of what I cut. Okay, that old adage of measuring twice and cutting once, well, measure the inside the same way you measure the outside. So if we go to the inside, the one thing I want to note here is you see these roof racks? This is the problem. I don't want to be cutting a roof rack hole through them. Now the space between the roof rack is about 16 inches, and it starts at about 18, goes to about 23, and then we have another roof rack or roof rib starting at roughly 38.5 from the back. So with that in mind, let's go back to the templates. So back in the templates here, you can see now I've added the rib in the template. Sorry. This is the rib. And so I can't cut my hole in there. Now, I could try to cut it at the back here, right? I could try to put it here, you know, as close as to the rib as perhaps I could. But the problem with that is, of course, now the shroud, right? If we look at the shroud outline, the shroud is going to extend over the back of the van. So I don't really have much of a choice here. I'm going to have to cut this up here, and I have to make sure I'm far enough back from the 40-inch edge, because my railing that the panel mounts on, that I'm in the process of painting, sits there. And then in theory, this would mount in like this, but and the railing needs to be able to go over top of that. So I'm pretty much committed to cutting it right about there.
Okay. Please be careful.
Doesn't look straight. Maybe it is.
We should make sure it's straight. By 14.
No, it's 13 by 13 and a half. Shit. Damn it.
Careful, careful, careful.
All right.
Well, it's done now, so you're not.
Well, if you find another tool, maybe cut this first.
You're not.
Here we go. Okay, so this is the top view. You can see that the Dicor sealant has basically just flowed around all the possible gaps and sealed it up. You can see a similar thing over at the other fan that's located there. Got a leaf, but basically it's just flowed around. My plan is to come up here later and put some Ultra Bond white tape over top, just because I don't know how UV resistant this Dicor sealant is, and I certainly don't want it to become brittle.
So yeah, I'll come up, I'll put some tape around on the seam, and it'll be done. Let's go look at the inside. Okay, so this is the inside. Now, this is the first one I put in, and I actually put it in a little too close on the left-hand side. So I didn't want to drill through the metal, because that would be multiple layers of metal. So I didn't actually screw it down on that side, but I did put an extra screw on each of the ends here to hold this in. So with all the screws around the side, I think that's actually going to be fine. The fan comes with a little shell that is adjustable. So to finish this off, we'll insert that shell, and I'll show you that on the next fan. Okay, this is the more forward fan. You can see I adjusted, so I made sure that I had room on all sides to put the trim material in. So it's drilled down from the outside into the wood, and I've actually got glue on the wood as well to hold it in place. I was mentioning it comes with a facade that you put on after the fact. It fits up like that and finishes it off once you put your roof in place. And you basically trim it depending on the depth of your roof. Okay, and just a couple other things. Couple other things I'll mention that I've been able to accomplish as well. First thing is those swivel seats. So I have swivel seats from Swivel R Us installed. Relatively straightforward. Essentially, it's just a plate that you insert between the seat and the frame. Raises the seat by a couple inches. It may be worthwhile looking at a way to lower the seat in the future, because it's a little uncomfortable, but it's not too bad to drive. Everybody says the same thing on the forums. You basically have to disconnect the battery to make sure that you don't set off the airbags, and then unscrew 6 nuts, put the plate in, screw the nuts back in, put the seat on the plate with the hardware they provide, and you're done. Took me about an hour and a half for both the 2 seats. Not too complicated at all. The other thing accomplished is layering sound deadening material. Basically, online there's 2 types of material that's commonly used. Rattle trap is one, kill mat is another. They're both basically the same, just a foil-backed, I think, marine vinyl that deadens the sound. You're supposed to achieve your sound deadening if you cover roughly about 25% of the service, which you know, I think I've clearly been able to accomplish.